You guys are doing good. I've got some things I need to talk about when it comes to Senate Bill 243. And so I wanted to kind of touch base with everybody and kind of let you guys know where we're at. And so if you guys can see this, please let me know. I'm just going to refresh my screen. I'm going to get things set up. This new platform is nice, but it takes some getting used to. And so I'm still trying to figure it all out. So and let's kind of hop into it as soon as I get my screen up. Come on. And I'm not seeing it. So we'll figure it out. I'm still just trying to figure this thing out. So I apologize. But we had some things that happened today on Senate Bill 243. And so I'm going to share this into the group and I'm gonna be good to go. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry it's so late. I had some things I had to take care of before I could get here. And so let's kind of talk about, what happened today. So there was a work session scheduled in the House Rules Committee. And it was something that dropped on us yesterday, on Father's Day. They like to do that. And so, this is kind of what happened. And so I think it's important to note that we still have moves to make. Obviously, it's getting harder and harder for us to continue to fight this stuff, but we're still in it, and we're not going to give up. And so, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. And so it was kind of frustrating to kind of watch. What I see up there is, we have one side that's totally entrenched. They are, really hard to reason with. And I thought, we've we've done a pretty good job submitting testimony, facts, data that supports. And so I felt like, we were moving in the right direction. And, the things that we still have going in our favor, obviously, is going to be the budget. They do not have the money for this. And so I think that's kind of the best news that came out of today is where it was scheduled to go. And so that's I believe, gonna help us in the long run because it's gonna get harder and harder for them to be able to fund this. And I think that's kind of the benefit that we have going forward is knowing that they're putting more and more into this pot. There's less money to go around. The budget is lower than they're anticipating, and they're continuing to fight with the Trump administration. So there's all these different things that go into effect when it comes to how what this picture is looking like for us. And so there was three amendments that were added to the Senate Bill 243 today. They're actually from our side, which was kind of surprising. And I was shocked when I saw them. And I felt like it was a step in the right direction. I felt like it was finally somebody proposing something on our behalf, which was good. So we had a Dash 14 amendment, which was the reciprocity. So it gave us, which it was interesting because it gives reciprocity with other states. And I don't know if that would authorize reciprocity for us with other states. So I wasn't clear on that one. It's more I need to research more. And so the next one was Senate Bill, or it's the Dash 16 amendment, excuse me. And so that was, something that basically it talks about, it moves the effective date out to March of next year for some of the stuff, and that's where they keyed in on measure 114. And so in the hearing itself, the testimony was on our side. So Drazen she came out swinging, and she was obviously not in support of the bill the way it's written. She offered an amendment, and the amendment was a way to, I feel, try to counter what's happening with Measure 114. I feel like it's watching. Yeah, I think she tried, and I think it showed what it showed me is somebody that pays attention to guns and gun rights, and especially around the country. It showed somebody that was really desperately trying to make a case, but didn't necessarily understand how complex the issue was, and probably why I probably wouldn't have kind of, if I was up there and I was going to state a case, I probably would not have gone about it the way I did, the way they did. And the reason I say that is because they brought up the fact about suppressors, right? So, we're all watching the Short Act, we're all watching the Hearing Protection Act. The one thing that we need to note here in Oregon is if the Hearing Protection Act goes into effect and becomes law, and suppressors are deregulated on the federal level, it makes them illegal here in the state. Okay, so that means it's a Class B felony for us to be in possession of these, which we've already had approval from the feds, and so that's something that is, it doesn't make me feel good, and I think they tried to fix that today with one of the amendments. And the problem with arguing it the way we do right now is there's the other side. So Moms Demand Action, every town, they're very entrenched in the Oregon legislature, and they're working very closely with Krupp and all the other politicians up there. So, when we start talking about suppressors and Hearing Protection Act, we're feeding right into their playbook. Okay. So this is right in their wheelhouse. And this is when they shut down. They don't even want to have a conversation about it, because they are just going to go and do what they're going to do. And so that's kind of the unfortunate thing for us. And so that's where I think I think she was definitely well intentioned. And I feel that, maybe at a different time, in a different place, her amendment would have been made a little bit more sense. I feel that it was a way to change the conversation, which I appreciated. I feel that, it was nice to have three amendments, dash amendments, that are actually in support of our 2A rights. So I was really appreciative of that. I feel that the committee already had their mind made up. And so that was it was kind of futile. And that was that was what it was hard to watch, because I wanted to see, something come out of this hearing that was going to move the needle in the way that we needed it to, so, that's the unfortunate thing. So, I feel that, you know, our avenues are getting tighter and there's less for us to do, but we're not going to give up until the end of the session. That's what we got. We got to see it. Okay. I mean, the big picture is they don't have the funding. We have to remain focused. We have to stay positive. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. And I feel that, I'm not going to give up hope, because I feel that the budget is going to save us, hopefully. And because they just don't have the money. They don't have the money to implement everything. And so things are going to take precedence. And if we do get lucky, it's going to be, we're going to have some of this stuff time out. That's kind of the thing. So they had a dash 14, that was about reciprocity. They had a dash 22 that had to do with the suppressors, and that's where it would have legalized them under state law if the Hearing Protection Act was to go into effect. So I thought that was a good thing. I was excited to hear that, because that means that they're kind of paying attention. And so, the one thing that we have to be aware of is all three amendments, they were voted down. They were shot down. They didn't want to give us. How are we doing? So they didn't want us to give us anything on those amendments, which is fine, because the amendments basically countered everything that they've tried to present up to this point. And so, that's something that I wanted to kind of bring up. So all those three amendments got shut down. And then, so what they did is they went ahead and they introduced the dash 16 amendment, which this thing has been amended so many different times. And so this is the one where they're actually going to be voting on it. And what they did here is they basically took the mag capacity ban from Measure 114. They introduced that into Senate Bill 243. So now if we're looking at it, and the way it's going to be engrossed, right? So we're going to have the rapid fire device ban. We're going to have the preemption. So all of us that carry a gun in public, if we're going to go into a public building now, we're facing criminal penalties there. And, hopefully there's proper notice and so we can avoid, but that's not going to help protect society. And also they added the magazine capacity ban. And so that's a dirty trick that they added. And I feel that maybe like if we're looking at the optics, maybe it's because they're in fear of Measure 114 going into effect or getting shut down. And so that's something to be mindful of. And so this Dash 16 amendment, what was interesting about this is this actually takes the effectiveness date of the Measure 114 part and moves it out to March 15th of 2026. So this is after the end of the short session is when this part of Senate Bill 243-16 would go into effect if this is to become law. Okay, we still have time. We're not out of the game yet. It's getting harder to maneuver. And so I just want to give you guys that heads up. So what they did with this, which I don't like any of this, but what they did is they took away the emergency clause, which is good for us. And so, in reality, they don't have the infrastructure for any of this stuff. And they're relying on, other municipalities to do, because it's an unfunded mandate is what it is. It's just, they don't have the funding. They're going to do what they're going to do. And we're supposed to just deal with it, So, I just want to give you that update. So, going forward, so what's going to happen? So that Senate Bill 243-16 as it was amended is now going on to the House floor for the second reading, and then it'll get a third reading, and that's when they're going to vote on it. And then it's going to go to the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. Okay. So what that means is the Ways and Means are the people that control the purse strings. Okay. And so I think that this one is, it's a bigger committee, but the thing, it's got both the House and the senators. So it's got representative senators on the committee. It's a bigger committee. I know some of them on there. They're the ones that are on our side are, we don't have to worry about them. The problem is it's a numbers game. It's a numbers because we don't have the votes on the committee most likely because we are in a minority. But we don't have the funding. The money's not there. So that's just another thing. And yeah, some of this stuff, yeah, you're 100% correct. And I need to double check that. Is originally it was scheduled to only be heard in Marion County, and so there's no way we could fight it there, and so with that, I need to follow up on that because I don't know if they took that out of there, so I need to. I've been going today, so I need to double check. But yes, if that part is still in there, that would be a big problem for us, and so that's something I want to worry about it. So yeah, so thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. This is a little bit later stream. This is a new platform for me, and I'm still trying to figure it out. How many of you guys are familiar with the oldest websites? And part of the reason I started streaming onto YouTube is because there was another audience there. But I run a Facebook group. I don't know if you guys use Facebook, but we have a group on there that's where a majority of my content has been for the longest time. And so I'm kind of branching out to reach people on YouTube. So if you guys are not familiar with our group, there's a lot of information. There's lots of, because everything I do is about like citizen advocacy and gun rights and stuff like that. And so if you guys are not familiar with that group, that's, I could put a link in the comments, and it's the Oregon Firearms Advocates group. And we got about 78,000 members in that group. And so we're pretty active. And so we have call to actions, and we're trying to mobilize, and we're trying to just keep all this information in front of us. And so that'd be if you guys are interested, you guys can join that group, and you guys can kind of see what we're doing there. And it will kind of, the video that I'm doing on YouTube would make more sense now because you would see what's going on in that Facebook group. And so I'm trying to just get more people involved And hopefully, if we have enough voices, we can kind of push back on this stuff. And so that's kind of wanted to bring that up. So, no, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. This is something, I do lots of other media. So I write blog posts. I have a couple websites that I publish to. I do a lot of gun rights stuff. I also I'm an instructor, run a nonprofit. So there's a lot of different things that I do, and when it comes to gun rights and in our state. So it's given me the opportunity to meet some really great folks and be able to kind of talk to you guys. And yes, that is my passion is with the kids, right? And so run an organization there, and so we've reached about 30,000 kids now in 10 states and taught them gun safety. And so, that's kind of my backstory and who I am and what I do. And everything's about safety, guns, gun safety, promoting responsible gun ownership. And so that's where, right now it's a really critical time for us as Oregonians. And so we have to work together and make sure that we try to push back on this stuff. And it's all I want to do is give you guys hope. That's the whole thing, is we got to have hope, because if we don't have hope, we give up. And when we give up, there's nothing that we can do. And I know sometimes it's daunting. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so, one thing we're going to just going on to the next floor. So we're going to have to watch Oldest. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen so you guys can kind of see what I see. And I kind of talk about Oldest and what it looks like. So give me 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. So now we have Oldest. So this is the website. Okay. So this is, you can see, this is what I use to kind of watch everything, monitor everything. Everything I do, I set it up so I automate it. And so this is for today. And so if I'm going to search a bill, okay, so search a bill. Let's see, the one that we're talking about tonight is Senate Bill 243. So it's already part of my queue. So I hit that, and you can see, this is the bill here, and so you can see the text, the analysis, the amendments, the testimony. When it was time, we could testify. We could also submit testimony that way. That's passed. And one thing I will say about this is the group was so active that we actually submitted probably close to 2,200 pieces of opposition testimony. It was kind of unheard of, okay? And so we worked really, really hard to make sure to stop this stuff, and so we're part of it. So when we're talking about the amendments, okay? So you pull up the amendments, and now you can kind of see all of the amendments, okay? And originally this was the 243B. So this was the engrossed version. This was the official one before today, okay? So now what they did is they added this -16 amendment, right? So I'm going to open that up, and you can kind of see so this is the amendment. So this is the one that they added, and it's probably not going to show me. Oh, because I'm on a different page. Dang it. Okay, so it's not going to let me because I basically opened a new screen, so I apologize. So, but that's the one we want to be watching. Okay, so this going forward, unless something changes, it's going to be the -B16. Okay, going forward. Okay, so what you can do is up here in the corner. Okay, you can go to the e-subscribe. You can go right there, and that's where you're going to enter your email address. It's not going to let me show you because I have to open a different screen. And so I'm going to get out of here. And so that's where you're going to enter your email address. If there's any movement on Senate Bill 243 or whatever bill you're following, this is where we go, and it's going to send you an email alert. So I automate everything. So if there's anything moving, any movement, it's going to let me know. So another bill that I watch, so I go to bills again. Another one I'm watching is 3075. Okay, that's on the House side. And this one is, so you'll also go down there to scheduled events, and you can see that there's nothing there scheduled. This thing is basically just hanging out. Okay, it's currently in the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. Okay, which, that's kind of scary. Well, no, because this hasn't gone through the process. I guess the 243 that we're following is going to go back into this Joint Committee on Ways and Means. The difference here with this House Bill 3075 is it hasn't made it outside of the House to go over to the Senate side. Okay, this the Senate Bill 243 is already on the House side, so it's already crossed over. Um, I would, this one right here. This is the, oh no. I'm going to come back to you. That's what they're doing. Is they are neutering these bills. Okay. I think that's a very appropriate way to think about it. And that's something we should be aware of, and focus on. And so, next one is, I'm going to talk about this other bill, is House Bill 3076. So House Bill 3076 was the one that it dealt with the FFLs, and it required them to all be licensed through the Oregon DOJ. This one would have definitely closed all of our FFLs down. There have been very few FFLs that could have survived this one. And so that's where, I wanted you guys to be aware of that one. Some of the stuff, if you're new to YouTube and you're not in the Facebook group, you might not be up to speed with these. This is something that we've been, very active on for the past, since the beginning of the session. So this is the one we've testified on. We submitted testimony. So this is another one that's just hanging out in Joint Ways and Means. It hasn't left the House, so it's not going anywhere. So just something to think about there. So another one that we've already testified on was 947. This one was a super dumb bill. And this is the one that my senator, James Manning, was trying to push through. And it talks about, changing the definition of the militia. And he's an idiot. And I mean that in a respectful way, but he doesn't understand what truly the militia is. And the militia is of people that are properly equipped, able-bodied, and properly equipped. So anybody that meets that loose definition could be a militia, and I think could help provide services to their community, right? And so I think what he wanted to do was demonize people that maybe have loosely affiliated with a militia. It was a thing. And so I'm glad to see this is going to go nowhere. It's still, you have nothing scheduled there. And so the last one that I check is 1015, and this creates a slush fund for the red shirts, the Moms Demand Action, Everytown, all of the anti-gun groups. This creates funding, right, from the state government for them to be able to further restrict your rights. Okay, so those are the bills. If you're interested, you can still sign up for the alert. This one currently is not going to go anywhere. They do not have the money for this one, and so thanks for being a part of it. You guys can sign up for the e-subscribe up there, and you guys can, if you want to follow along just to keep it in front of you, you guys can. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this screen and go back here. Perfect. And I'm going to look at my comments. So there's one comment that stuck out to me, which I liked. And this one, yeah, I think you're 100%. 100%. And one thing that came out in today is Krupp doesn't understand that it is legal for us to have a machine gun in the state of Oregon. He doesn't understand that it's legal for us to have a short barrel shotgun or an SBR or a suppressor. So I feel that the people that are making these decisions up there should be have more experience on the topic that they're talking about than just what they're getting from the other side. And so, that's where I feel that when we stepped out with this amendment that talked about the suppressors, we're stepping right into their talking points. And so, while it was well intentioned, it was probably not the right time to do that. But she tried. I mean, I was glad to see finally a pro gun piece of legislation. So, but I definitely I feel this comment right here because I feel that what they've done, because originally, if you think about the omnibus bill 243, the way it was four bills. It was a ban on rapid fire devices like it has now. It was a 72-hour hold, so that was quote unquote for suicide prevention. And then there was the preemption law, which it's still part of that. There was also a ban on adults from 18 to 21 from having firearms. And so they've cut it down to three now. And so that's something to think about. And so I'm not saying it's a victory. We didn't, we've got some positives that have come out of this situation, but we just got to keep coming. We got to keep showing up, and we got to keep working. And yes, 100%, Michael, this right here. And we don't win when we don't show up, and we cannot let other people speak on our behalf. We have to do the work. And the whole point of this is to make it so it's so easy to get involved. It's hard not to get involved. Right. And that's what we've done really, really good as a group. And I encourage you to join the group so you can be part and see what we're doing. Because as soon as the information gets out, I can typically put out the information faster to the Facebook group than I can to YouTube, because it takes a little bit of like setup and everything like that. So the fastest information that I can get out is typically on Facebook, and that's the Oregon Firearms Advocates group. And you guys are welcome to join it and just kind of see what we do there. But that's we got to tell our friends. I mean, we got to vote too. I mean, that's another thing. So that's what's really important to note. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, I feel that there is. I feel that there is some corruption up there, and I feel a lot of the corruption. I believe it stems from the outside influence from people on our elected officials. And a prime example is the Moms Demand Everytown. And let me find the link real quick. And so that's something I wanted to make sure you guys are aware of is there's so much money involved with this, and there's so much money that they're using to further restrict, and that's where we got to make sure that we are a part of this process. And so let's see if this works. Give me a second. Yeah, let me see if that worked for you. Hopefully you can click on that and you'll be able to click on the group, and there's the group right there. And so you guys should be able to join. There is some questions. Answer the questions. We'll let you in, and you can kind of see what we're doing. And that's just something to be aware of. And so back to the people from out of the state. I mean, they have a script that they follow that goes all over the country, right? So they have these talking points that they use in other places of the country, and they're using it here. And it's really, really frustrating. It's because when they make demands, it shuts down debate. Okay. And without any working knowledge of what a gun owner goes through to conceal carry lawfully, or to carry a gun, a magazine capacity, where I'm supposed to be with that gun in public, where I can and cannot, like, you have to know, what it's like. And these people that are writing laws and trying to pass bills have no fundamental understanding of what it is a firearm is, and what it takes to, you know, do this right, and be a gun owner, be a responsible citizen. And the problem is we're not the ones that are committing these crimes, and they're putting us in a position where all of us are made to be a criminal, and so that's the unfortunate thing. So, and give me 1 second. Let me look at this one. That's a good comment. Okay, so, and this is a good one. I feel that, like, in my gut, okay, in my gut, I feel that we have a really good chance in court. Okay, and I know people are disenfranchised with their votes. They feel that their voice doesn't matter. I totally get it. I can understand that. But we had 160,000 people that stayed home in 2020, and that's or 2022, and that's what gave us Senate Measure 114. So that's where, we got to get better. We got to be talking about recalls. We got to be, engaging. We got to be running for office. There's all these different things that we have to do. And I know it's the last thing that any one of us want to do, but the only way we affect the change that we need is by getting inside the machine. And so, and we have good folks that are up there that are doing good work, but it's also, so I think it's a big issue. It really is. So, well, and we have to look at the ballot language. It was very deceptive. Okay, it was, the it was all smoke and mirrors. I mean, the whole thing was a fraud, and it shouldn't even gotten on the ballot. And I try to be kind of careful with my language, but it's just, it was not something that it should have ever gotten that far. And it was like watching the Titanic, because I was part of it back then, and it was like a slow moving train wreck. So, um, let me address this one real quick. I need to double check Rip Curl. I need to double check the penalty, but I know that, like, there was a statute. I forget the statute because I've got all these. My brain's fried at this point. But there was a statute relating to suppressors or SBRs that that made it illegal under Oregon revised statute if they were not registered with the federal government. So that's where I'm kind of like trying to figure. I know there was, like, I think 16 other states that are in that same boat, and so today was like the first time that I've seen anybody try to address it and readdress it. So, that's kind of where I'm at. So, other than that, I mean, I don't know how much more you want me to go. I'm gonna probably just get off here and just get ready for tomorrow. The best thing you can do is obviously the website that I showed you is right here, like Olis. Okay. Best thing you can do is I'm gonna go to the bills here, and I'm gonna show you how to. No, I need to do it this way. Excuse me 1 second. Is the bills? I have to go here and 243. Put that in there. Go there. Okay. You'll see up here in the corner. Go to the e-subscribe. Okay. Go there and go ahead and sign up for the email alerts. That way you're getting the information as soon as it changes in OLIS. Okay. You're going to get an alert. It's going to let you know what the status is. And yeah, 100%, Drew. Yeah. They said the quiet part out loud a couple times. And what they said is they want no guns in the state of Oregon. Okay. That's what they're doing, and so that's where we have, they think that banning every type of firearm and making everything illegal will create this special utopia that's never been seen before. But you saw what they did with Measure 110. That utopia failed miserably, and so that's where we have to just be aware of that. So, just a heads up. So make sure you sign up for those email alerts. Pretty easy to do, and then I'm gonna get after. I appreciate you tuning in, It's nice to meet new folks on YouTube, and it's just go to the group, join the group. You guys can see all the work that we're doing there, and a lot of this stuff will make sense because I do like how-to videos in the group about like how a bill becomes a law, like how we this OLIS thing. I've done videos on OLIS. Like the the thing I want to do is engage my fellow gun owners. I want them to feel that they have a voice. I want them to feel that they can maneuver and look through this website so they don't feel blind, and they can be a part of this process, because the only way we have to involve our neighbors, and we have to make it easy for them, and so that's something to think about. And so that's all I try to do. I try to do a lot on education advocacy, because we need more than just me. And I know there's a lot of great folks around the state that are doing good work. And so I like to network with them. Okay, cool. I'll check you out, G23. So thanks for doing that. And you can just kind of see where we're at. I share lots of stories that I see from around the country, just so people can kind of see like big picture stuff, like 30,000 foot view is how all these court cases that are happening across the country, they do overlap in Oregon, and so we do have hope. And I just want people. I don't want people to give up, right? No, I Wicket. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. And I hope I don't know where you're from, but just be safe. Get out there. We'll keep you posted tomorrow when I know more what's happening with 243. Like, because I'm gonna have to figure out a timeline, because we're gonna have to be up there. We're gonna have to be in the building. We're gonna have to miss work. We're gonna have to let them know that this is an important topic for us. You'll also see pictures of us like bodying out the red shirts. Okay, so we get up there. We get up there early, and we get in line. We get in the front of the room so the red shirts don't get the camera. And oh, aloha, cool, cool, man. So I'll be up north this weekend. So I like that. Hopefully everything's quiet. So all right, I'm gonna get off here. You guys have a great day, and thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys, and we'll figure out this together, and we'll keep going forward. So talk to you guys soon. Thank you.